Hi kids, my name's Anthony Stamper. I'm with the Lenoir Fire Department, and today I'm going to take you to Mule School. And this book was wrote by Julia Rawlinson and Lynne Chapman. So let's go to Mule School. Stomper did not like Mule School. He liked the other mules, he liked lunchtime and playtime, but he did not like the stubbornness practice. Every day the schedule was the same. 9 o'clock stubbornness, 11 o'clock kicking. 12 o'clock was lunch, 1 o'clock was stubbornness, 12 o'clock was kicking, and 3 o'clock was to go home. Day after day as the mules recited, won't, and can't, they shook their heads and stomped their feet. But one day Stomper put his hoof in the air. What if we want to do as we were told? He asked nervously. You are a mule, refuse, cried Ms. Kick. But what if it seems like a good idea, mumbled Stomper. Nobody else's idea is good, she snapped, and she sent him to stand in the corner. Stomper's first stubbornness test was a guard a pile of apples. He stood mumbling, no, under his breath, but before a long and scruffy pig snuffed up. My piglets are hungry, could you spare some apples? She asked. Of course, Stomper nodded and helped herself. The pig waddled happily away with apples, but Stomper gulped and had forgotten to be stubborn. Fool of a mule, cried Miss Kick, you must never, ever give in to a pig. Stomper's next task was to block a path. Soon a family of goats needed to get past. Stomper stood aside and waved them by politely. But then the school's meanest mules, Biff and Bash, jumped out and laughed. We're mules. We like to kick. Weakness makes us sick. They chanted and they circled him. We're going to tell on you. You're supposed to stop the goats, not let them through. They're right, thought Stomper sadly. I'm a useless mule. Stamp, why am I so weak? Asked Stomper in the playground. You're not weak. You've got a good kick, said Stamp. Come and play ball. Stamp kicked the ball over the haystack, and Stomper galloped after, forgetting of his stubbornness troubles as he raced across the playground. They bashed and they buttled and they kicked and they crashed until it was time to go back to class. That afternoon was a field trip and practice kicking in the valley. But Stomper sent out an apple picking to replace the apples he had lost. He wandered up the valley side and followed the butterfly and was listening to the mules chanting below when he heard a frightening sound. The dam above the valley has burst, and a huge river was roaring down. His friends were going to be swept away. Leaf or branch or rock or stick, whatever it is, will give a kick, they chanted far below. Move, cried Stomper as loudly as he could, but the mules didn't hear him. Nose to ground and tail to the sky, let those thundering mule hooves fly. They cried as they kicked and kicked and kicked. Run, thundered Stomper, waving his hooves widely, but the mules were not looking. Then, alas, Miss Kick saw the water swooshing toward her and faced the valley, dug in her hooves, bared her teeth, and cried, We're mules and we won't budge, even for enormous flood. The other mules took up the cry. Their eyes were wide, their ears were back, but their trembling hooves were planted firmly on the ground. Suddenly another sound arose above the rushing water. Crash, crash, crash. The mules closed their eyes tightly and covered their heads with their hooves, but then. It's Stomper, cried Stamp with a mighty neigh and a delight of delights. Stomper's head was down, his heels were flying, and he was kicking with all his might. Crash, crash, crash came all the water. He was kicking rocks, he was kicking sticks, he was kicking broken branches, wood and rocks that tumbled down the valley side, and was a rumbling roar, making a new dam for the woodshed the water safely away. Stomper trotted down the hill and stood casually nibbling flowers. Slowly the other mules sidled up. "We were wrong," they muttered. "We were foolish mules." Stomper shook his head. "No," he said. "You stood your ground. You did as a mule should do. You look lucky, you just lucky that all mules are exactly the same." Miss Kick looked thoughtful as she led them back to school. The next day, mule school, the schedule read: 9 o'clock, stubbornness or pottery. 11 o'clock, kicking or flower arranging. 12 o'clock, lunch. 1 o'clock, stubbornness or hoof printing. 2 o'clock, kicking or musical mules. Or 3 o'clock to go home. And at 11 o'clock, while Stomper happily kicked away through class, Biff and Bash were down in the meadow merrily arranging daisies. The end.